Welcome to LaTour Retirement Talk. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm here with our hosts, Jim Margraf and Josh LaTour. Jim and Josh, great to be here with you. I am excited about today's show because it's a topic that a lot of people are talking about. And anytime you guys do a show about Social Security, I know you hear a lot from listeners having questions. And a lot of our listeners and viewers, this is one of the more popular shows we'll do all year because people need to know about the changes that are coming for next year and just about Social Security in general. If you haven't yet filed or you've just recently filed, it's so important to get it right. And if you're already on Social Security, what do these changes mean for you? So, but before we get to that, as usual, I have to find out. I mean, we're talking about two guys that lead very exciting lives. So we have to get that out of the way first. Josh, what have you been up to? I know you're going to say work. It has been busy, right?
It has been, Tony. And honestly, I'm afraid to disappoint, but that's been about what the week has been is work. But
really, since last time we talked, it's work.
Yep.
I
haven't done a whole lot of extra curriculars, but it's been a good week.
Sure.
And I'm looking forward. We've got next week. As of the recording of this, next week is going to be Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So looking forward to that. We've got some family coming into town this next week. My in-laws, and then my sister and her husband.
Nice.
And my niece and nephew are coming to visit.
Are you hosting? So you're hosting Thanksgiving?
We are. Yep.
Yeah. How does your wife? How does the family feel about that? You think it's going to be good? You guys like hosting?
Yeah. We built a good sized house because we have family members that live far away, so that we knew they need space.
That's nice.
So we're looking forward to having everybody over.
That's really nice. I think that's great. I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving as well. Of course, it's going to be a little awkward for my family because, we go around the table and it'll be with extended family, in-laws, our immediate family, my wife's brother and his family, etc., our kids, and everyone will have to go around and say what they're thankful for. And when they get to me, I'm going to say, what am I most thankful for this year? And I'm going to say Jim Margraf and Josh LaTour and the LaTour Retirement Talk radio show.
And you're going to get some strange looks.
I am going to get some looks, and
like,
most of them will say, who? My wife and kids have listened and watched the show, but the rest will say who.
My condolences to them.
I kid, but I am thankful for you guys. I love hanging out each week with you guys. We have a lot of fun, and we're going to be at a big financial event in January, so I'm looking forward to that. But I'm thankful for family. How about you, Jim? What's going on? Have you done anything exciting in the past week? Besides work?
No, not really. I would have to say, when it comes to work, though, I'd say the most exciting thing is when you're sitting down with someone and they are very worried about the next stage as to whether or not they can afford to retire. And you sit down with someone and you are able to show them that, yes, you can retire and you can retire now. You don't have to work in your high stress job for another 2 or 3 years. And when when the relief on their face is so great that they actually brings tears to their eyes. Yeah, that's a very exciting, very rewarding moment.
That's why you do what you do, right? I mean, it's that help and guidance you give people and seeing it really have an impact. That's huge. And that is something to be thankful for. That is great.
And it always, makes me step back and, realize that, I do this for a living. I do this every day. And, but most people, what they do every day is so very different, but they need to know what we have. And it's so helpful. And it makes me step back. And I'm so thankful that I do get to do this and help people in this way and provide that peace of mind for people. And it really is, it really is amazing. It really is.
That's great.
So.
Well, and another thing that is amazing is that we have Social Security still to rely on, and that we are getting an increase, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So the title of the show, What Social Security's 2026 COLA means for you. And we're going to get into more aspects of Social Security, a few more aspects. But regarding the COLA, what does that stand for, and what are we talking about here?
Yeah, well, it's not Coca-Cola, Tony. So
Yeah, I was going to say COLA. Are we going to debate RC versus Pepsi versus Coke, or what?
Right. Well, it stands for cost of living adjustment. And so that's the thing that we get to, so hopefully get to Social Security every year. And it's going to be based on where inflation sits. So we've had years in the past where we didn't get a cost of living adjustment. But obviously right now inflation is at a point where we still definitely need one. Not to the degree that we did a couple years ago. We've seen some very high ones. But this coming year, we've got a 2.8% cost of living adjustment. So not a huge amount. It's going to average around $56 a month, and then $88 a month for the average married couple. So it'll be a little extra in your pocket throughout the year. Now, of course, we do also have rising costs in the Medicare Part B premiums. I believe that is going to, I want to say it's $205. It's $202. It's going from $185 to $202. So a $17 raise in that as well. So that eats up some of your cost of living adjustment, but not all of it. So having that is definitely going to be something that's helping our retirees.
Yeah. Well, and this year we do this show or talk about this once a year when it's announced, and it seems to me we're doing this a few weeks later maybe than we normally do. Normally we would have had this COLA show and Social Security show a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, we would have. I mean, the government shutdown definitely slowed some things down a little bit.
Gummed up the works a little bit.
They had to release their data a little bit later than normal. And so, and we also had a nice interview with the senior portfolio manager of Gradient Investments, which that put us back a little bit on doing this show.
Yeah.
So, but I felt that show was very important. It's very nice to get to sit down and talk to the senior portfolio manager of where clients' funds are being held. So,
for sure.
So getting their perspective and getting to hear from them directly is awesome. But when it comes to Social Security, and I just want to put this out that we've mentioned it in the past. Social Security is the foundation of your income in retirement. It was never meant to be your entire retirement picture. It was always designed to help keep you out of abject poverty. Pay for basic food, basic clothing, but it has kind of morphed into a little bit more than that for a lot of people. But having some of this information here and getting all the details, and we do the workshops here, and getting that information out to people is very, very important, because how and when one files is so important, and the way your brother-in-law or your barber tells you ought to file for your Social Security, or the timing as to when you should file, isn't necessarily right for you. When we do the workshop, we always like to say, everybody, we all have a different set of fingerprints, right? And so we all have a unique financial situation, and the time that is best for you to file for Social Security is unique to you and your financial situation. So, yes, we want to talk about all this information, but even more importantly, I would suggest to the listeners and those that are watching us online, if you would like to know more about Social Security, go to our website at LaTourAsset.com, and you can always sign up for one of our workshops.
Right.
We're going to be posting the schedule for next year in a little bit here, and I highly recommend. It's an hour of information plus questions. There's no have-tos. If you would like to come in for a consultation, that's offered to you, but we provide a lot of information. It's a little bit like trying to take a drink of water from a fire hose.
Yeah, and it's purely educational. There's no charge for this. There's no obligation for anything.
Nope.
You can come and learn, ask some questions. Yep. If you need further help, you can schedule a consultation. Absolutely. Also, that consultation, there's no charge or obligation to continue any further, but it's really important. And I know you also offer a Social Security maximization report that's
Right.
personalized, but it really starts with educating yourself on what you need to know. And like you said, it's the foundation of anyone's retirement plan, no matter how much money or how little money you have. Social Security is a known factor that you can use as the foundation. And a lot of people, it's a pretty good chunk. I think the average is like 40% of their retirement income.
That's right.
Will be Social Security, correct?
Yeah, and people wonder why we take the time to go through Social Security because, I mean, we don't really get paid for helping with Social Security, but I want to make sure my clients are taken care of and they don't make the costly mistakes that other people have made. We can look at the mistakes other people have made and let's make corrections so we don't have to make those same mistakes. Learn from their experience instead of our own. So that's why we do it. We want to make sure our clients are setting up themselves for success by laying that foundation of their income properly.
Yeah. I want to go back really quick to this upcoming year's COLA when they made the announcement that it was 2.8. I know a couple of people who grumbled about it, who I know, and, my parents are in retirement and a lot of, I have family members who are collecting Social Security, and they're like 2.8. That's really low. But really that's about average, isn't it?
It is.
It is. Yeah. You look at the last 20 years, Tony, it's been about 2.6% has been the average. So really we're kind of actually getting back to a more normal state because inflation is at a more normal rate than it was before.
Yeah. I think the frustration comes from just a couple of years ago. It was what,
8.7, I believe. Yeah.
8.7. And people got spoiled and they thought,
they did.
Okay, now everything's costing way more. They finally gave us a decent COLA adjustment. Now they're going to continue because things are costing more and more. Right. But that's not how it works. The government uses their own CPI index. And that doesn't include I've also heard that health insurance premiums and costs, healthcare costs this year, especially health insurance, for many people have gone up 20%. So in that case, the 2.8 isn't going to cut it, is it? That's the unfortunate part, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really going to do a lot for some of the other expenses. The CPI doesn't take a number of things into account.
Sure.
So, I mean, because some things are quite variable. And so because they vary so much, it'd be very difficult to put them in.
Yeah.
And it would make the CPI vary greatly from one even month to the next. And so you wouldn't have a little bit more of a steady barometer with which to use to make these calculations and make the adjustments on Social Security. So there is some debate about the continued use of CPI as it stands right now. But we do have to use something. And so adding in some of those other things might mess with it. What I don't want to see them do long term, there's always talk about it, but I don't think that they will. But there's always talk about finding ways of using another variation that would reduce it. But I don't think that they will. Just in seeing what they have typically done. There's always somebody that puts out a crazy idea that gets a lot of news, but it doesn't actually end up gaining any traction. So I say all that to more put people's minds at ease when you hear some of the news stories or that catches on social media about the government doing this or that, the other thing to reduce it. Not so much. Most of that is doesn't get any traction.
Yeah. Most of it's hyperbole or just talk and just trying to fearmonger a little bit. And I mean, with the government, anything's possible, right? I mean, they could, if they wanted to get together and could all agree on something, they could vote it. But is it going to happen? It typically doesn't. We've heard these things for so long.
Yeah. And the problem too, Tony, is there's so much noise out there that's just simply incorrect.
Yes.
I mean, I still have people. I mean, the big beautiful bill came out on July 4th, right?
Yep. Right.
I still have people coming into my office asking, so when is the no taxes on Social Security come into effect? Like, that was not part of that bill.
Right.
Right.
We did a whole show, so I'm not going to go into it too deeply here.
Yeah.
But the bill did not cover taxation on Social Security, and whether or not that ever happens remains to be seen.
Right.
If we want my personal opinion, I don't see it happening, just because that's a That's a big check coming into the government that they would get rid of. And so I doubt that's going to happen. But there's a lot of noise out there, a lot of news outlets, we'll call them. But really, they're more like tabloids because they're just spewing false information for views. And so you want to make sure you
sensationalizing what is happening,
right,
or
Absolutely.
what might they sensationalize what could possibly
what might happen. Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And I don't mean to. My mom would always say, "Don't lick a gift horse in the mouth." In other words, back in the olden days when they, if somebody gave you a horse for free, horses were very valued, even more than now, but they're all expensive. If somebody would give you a horse, that's an expensive gift. You're not going to go check its teeth to check its health in front of them. Say, well, you're giving me a horse, but let's make sure it's healthy and see what age it is. And that's how you tell a horse's age and health, is by looking at their teeth.
Right.
I don't know if you knew that or not, but so I always like that phrasing, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And, I said CPI 2.8, it's not near as much as people's health care coverage might have went up. But on the other hand, it is something. And at least they're trying to keep up with some part of inflation. And you don't want one of those years where it's zero. That's for sure.
That's what we had 10 years ago. And people don't remember that 10 years ago, 2016, we had a zero and, for a COLA. And so, I remember the disappointing phone calls and conversations we had with clients back then. But, we're getting the average is where we are at 2.8. Now, at least it's set to some type of a standard, because it used to be that Congress had to vote on the increase to Social Security. So since 1975, it's been linked so that it's automatic. Because you go back and you look, and went back and do a little bit of research, and you say, well, what's the largest COLA that's ever been? Well, the largest COLA is a little over 14%, but they hadn't had one for years before that. So really, having this on automatic every year, linked to some measure of inflation and cost for people, is a good thing.
Yeah. I think I would agree with that. And that was just a catch up. So you can't really use that as an indicator. Although I remember when true inflation, I was old enough in the 80s. I'm old enough to remember as a teenager in the 80s, hearing my parents talk about it, see it on the news. There was a point where inflation in the late 70s, early 80s got outrageously high.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the teens, right? It was into the double digits. And so the COLA, I think one of those years was double digits. So,
of course, you were getting CDs for 11% too.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Everybody had money in CDs. At one point, I remember my parents having a CD that was over 10%.
Yep.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, and that's just now it's just like that. And
of course, your mortgage was 15, so it was,
the mortgages were expensive. Luckily, my mom and dad at that point lived on paid off land, but the interest rates on the loans for farmers was pretty high if they wanted to get a new tractor or something. Nowadays it's like, use the bank's money. It's 3%. We got spoiled for a while with low interest rates on loans, but then we live with no low interest rates on income earned too. So,
yeah, exactly, Tony. So, along with the cost of living adjustment to the actual benefit amount, we also have an adjustment to the earnings test limit. So we've talked about that on the show before. The earnings test kicks in if you want to file for Social Security prior to your full retirement age. If you're still working, you can only make so much before they start pulling back some of your Social Security. So for 2026, that amount's going to go up to $24,480. And for every $2 over that, they're going to withhold $1 of Social Security. So that's if you're working, you're making earned income. That's not investment income. That's just literal earnings from work, W-2 income or 1099 contract labor. If you're making over that 24,480 rather, then they're going to withhold some money back.
Wow.
So it's kind of nice. We're now above a $2,000 a month income that you can be receiving. If you want to work part-time and go ahead and file for your Social Security before your full retirement age, you can make a nearly livable wage now and still be able to receive your Social Security without any penalties. So that's nice.
But at the same time, sorry, Jim, I'll let
No,
you,
go ahead.
but at the same time, that's very problematic for people. Like, I know people who were working full time and filed for Social Security at 62 because they could.
Right.
And then that person made over six figures. It was a guy I knew, one of my friends. And I'm like,
Oh boy.
yeah. And I tried to tell him, no, that's not going to work. And then he was very upset a few months after the fact when he realized he's not going to get any money because they take $1 for every $2 he earned over that amount. And he earned enough over that amount, he wasn't getting his Social Security.
Yep.
And he could have let that roll up because the longer you wait to take Social Security, and he locked in a lower amount for him and his wife.
Exactly.
Then.
Yeah. That's one of the big considerations that I want people to pay attention to before they just go ahead and file. You want to consider whether or not you plan to continue working, because you could throw yourself into a world of hurt like that. He locked in a lower amount and he didn't get to keep any of it anyway. Now, I guess the silver lining in that is Social Security does give that back to you, what they withheld, but they parse it out over your life expectancy. And so
you
over
don't
the next
get a
30
check
years,
for the
you're
whole
going to
amount.
get
No. Sadly, no.
And you still locked in that lower amount.
Yes, you did.
And you've locked in a lower amount if you have a surviving spouse and they take the higher of the two. You may have, I should say, locked in a lower amount because they only get to keep the highest amount of Social Security. And if you're the guy, women typically will outlive you, so your wife may be stuck. If she didn't have as many working years as you, her amount was probably lower than yours. And that used to be the case. It used to be a stereotype that was true for the majority of people. Now, usually both spouses work, and maybe not as many women are taking time off to raise a family, but in that traditional sense, if that's still happening, then you're really leaving your spouse in a bad situation.
Absolutely.
You are. And that's why when we talk about Social Security, especially when we do our workshops, we go into all this. We go into it in depth, actually, and talk about some of the things you want to think about when it comes to planning about when you're going to take your Social Security. So, when we talk to a couple and the one with the higher Social Security, by waiting to take it, you actually extend that benefit over both lifetimes, both yours and your spouse's. So, if you are working and you're making a nice income, it might be wise to consider waiting until either you retire or your full retirement age to start taking the Social Security benefit. And I'm not sure if people are aware of this, but for every year that you wait past your full retirement age, you get another 8% added to that Social Security check. So if your full retirement age is 67, you could wait all the way up till age 70, and that's really going to boost your Social Security benefit by quite a bit. It's one of the biggest ways to boost that benefit is just by waiting 8% a year past your full retirement age.
I wanted to say something really quick here. If you wait from 62 to 67, your full retirement age, that's almost 30% you're giving up, isn't it?
It is.
It is. It's not even almost. It is 30%.
Yeah, and then if you wait from there to 70, like you said, it rolls up at 8%. That's huge.
Yes,
it is. Yeah, from 67 to 70, you're talking about another 24%. So
wow.
It's
okay.
a significant increase by waiting to 70. So it works in some cases. It's definitely not for everybody.
Right.
No strategy is for everybody. But if it's right for you, if you've got longevity in your family history, you're a healthy person, and you want that higher monthly benefit, waiting till 70 can be a great benefit for you.
Right.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, when to file, we've talked about it on so many shows, but the reason is it's so critical. And we're not saying definitely don't file, that everyone should wait till 70 or everyone should wait till 67 or no one should file at 62 because everybody's situation is different. You might be in a situation where that makes the most sense, right? I mean, if we all knew when we were going to pass away, this would be a lot easier discussion, right? Then you could plan it down to the penny and get and maximize it definitively.
Sure.
But if you know your family's health history, you know your current health history, and you know a lot of other factors like how much money do I have, when do I want to retire, and you guys run that report, that personal with all that personal information to calculate when somebody's sweet spot should be, right?
Exactly right, Tony. Yeah, because like you said, the sweet spot is going to be different for everybody. Some people, maybe they should go ahead and file at 62. And I tell people that in our workshop. It's like, I don't want you to be sitting there thinking, boy, it sure does sound like Josh just wants me to wait till my full retirement age. Make me wait longer to take my Social Security. That's not the case. There's every case is different, and I want to make sure that you have the most information. And so definitely it's wise to do that Social Security maximization report and take into consideration some of these other factors that can affect when you should file.
Yeah. And there are so many different strategies, and it's really based on your personal situation. But I encourage all of our listeners and viewers out there to go attend one of your workshops if they have not already. Those will start back up again in the new year once we're through the holiday season here. And I think they can find out about those on your website, right?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, on the events page on our website, LaTourAsset.com.
LaTourAsset.com. All right, we're almost out of time. Anything else before we go?
I would just say when it comes to, we're talking about Social Security here, but when it comes to your retirement, Social Security is one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And what you do with your IRAs and your 401ks and those other pre-tax dollars can affect your Social Security. And a lot of people don't realize that Social Security is not just an island on itself over here, and I make my decisions on Social Security over here, and then I can do whatever I want with my 401ks and IRAs on this side. And no, it does affect the other, because I can, by what I do with that 401k and IRA, I can affect the taxability of my Social Security. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to taxes, I think could speak for most people. We want to pay as little bit as possible. And so we want to strategize, what do I do with that IRA and 401k? How do I take all of this, have it dovetail and work together in the best way possible for our retirement years? And so it's not coordinating them together. It's not where I can just make an individual decision. I don't want to go to one person over here for Social Security and someone else on the other side for investments. We need it all working together for us in our retirement years. And it makes the most sense when you do, and you sit down and we put a plan together for someone, a written plan, and we have all that. It is certainly helpful.
Oh, it's got to be huge. Well, I'll tell you what, great show today, and that's a great point, Jim. It is so important. Let our listeners know, Jim, how they can get a hold of you and set up that no charge, no obligation consultation.
Sure, Tony. Very easy. Give us a call, 417-641-3497. And don't forget to visit our website at LaTourAsset.com and check out the events page if you'd like to come to one of our workshops.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, guys, listeners and viewers. Thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of LaTour Retirement Talk with our hosts, Jim Margraf and Josh LaTour.